We welcome you to the 2020 UDSL Alumni Awards presentation, where we honor Dale Riedel, a 2004 graduate with the Distinguished Alumni Award, and the Honorable Mary Wiseman with the Honorable Walter H. Rice Honorary Alumni Award. Our board of directors currently sits at 19 members, representing graduating classes from each decade since the law school's reopening in the 1970s. Our board of directors for the Alumni Association strives to recognize the extraordinary, and we do so in many ways, but today we do so through two of our alumni awards. We proudly recognize and honor those individuals that truly reflect the values and ideals of the School of Law in their day-to-day actions through professional integrity, exemplary achievement, extraordinary service, and continued active support. Today's recipients are role models for our students and our alumni, and we thank you each for the example of excellence you have provided. And for the alumni on today's presentations and awards ceremony, as well as our students, we welcome your continued support and connection with the School of Law as students and as alumni. A little bit of background in terms of how we got to where we are today. Our board of directors has a nominating committee in which we welcome nominations from alumni, from others in the community on all our awards, not just the two we're here to recognize today. And our website for the law school has information about the awards and information about how to nominate. So I would ask all of you to think about individuals that would be worthy of the awards that we present as an alumni association, and would encourage you to nominate those people. As information comes in about nominations, our nominating committee vets those and puts together a slate that is then presented to the entire board of directors, in which we are then vote on that slate. Note that any alumni are welcome to participate in any of our Alumni Association committees. You do not have to be on the board of directors to participate in one of our many committees. So if you are interested, I would welcome you to either contact me or contact Colleen Leahy for more information on that. As with many things in 2020, this event was originally scheduled to occur earlier in the year, actually just in late March. And we all hate that we can't be in person to celebrate this. But I guess one silver lining is that we do have the ability now for more of our alumni from across the country that aren't just in the Dayton area able to participate in this digitally. And so thank you all for participating and being a part of this and making this awards presentation, although it might be different, special and successful, especially in honoring our two honorees today. A little housekeeping as we move forward with this. The chat feature is available. So as we go through this and you would like to provide congratulations to both of our honorees or submit questions that will be part of a small Q&A at the end of this, I welcome you to do that. And we also will have a link in the chat as well to our nomination page that I mentioned earlier about these awards and others. So it is my pleasure right now to hand it over to Dean Andrew Strauss to proceed further.
Thank you, Adam. And Adam, thanks for all that you do. Adam has been a real stalwart for the law school over many years now. So it's really a great job that I have. Law is an applied discipline. It's similar to engineering or architecture. It's really about taking philosophy or theory and turning it into some useful, practical purpose. And that purpose is really judged, the value and the extent to which we're succeeding in doing that well is really judged by the alumni that we produce, and seeing people in the community and how they're actually using the skills that they learned at UDSL. And as I say, my job is great because part of what I do is go out and visit our products, so to speak, all over the country. And it's really a fascinating thing to do. We have some 5,000 alum. I see obviously a relatively small percentage of them, but it gives me insight into all sorts of different lives and different ways that the skills that we're imparting at UDSL are being used. And I learned a tremendous amount by visiting with our alum in different places. And it really makes me proud because I see what people are doing with what we've taught. I see the values that they bring into their lives, the ingenuity, the expertise, the competence. And I feel like, sort of self-congratulatory perhaps, but I feel like we play some small role in all of that at UDSL. And no one, I think, exemplifies these values and sort of what we try and impart better than Dale Riedel. I met Dale on my travels when I was out in California and got a chance to get to know him, and was impressed with him as I know you all are as well. He really exemplifies the very best of what we try and be at UDSL in terms of commitment to service, commitment to the country, commitment to integrity, and somebody who's excelled, not only been competent, but excelled in every single area, and has had an absolutely fascinating career as a lawyer post his time at UDSL. So it's my privilege to introduce Dale today for the Distinguished Alumni Award, which is given each year to a University of Dayton School of Law graduate who reflects the school's value, professional integrity, and community service through achievement of exceptional merit, honor, and influence. And as I say, Dale exemplifies exactly what this award is about. He spent more than 20 years in the U.S. Air Force, an organization that, of course, we have a special relationship with at the law school, as most of you, I think, know. And during that time, he was a senior military prosecutor for the military commissions prosecuting suspected Al-Qaeda members for war crimes in violation of international humanitarian law. He was a staff judge advocate in Afghanistan, where he oversaw all aspects of the only air expeditionary wing directly employing air power in Afghanistan. Of course, that's like being chief counsel of a major organization. And later, most recently, he became the chief of the Los Angeles regional office representing the Air Force in litigation involving appeals of the Merit System Protection Board and complaints to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. So it's really my pleasure to be able to introduce Dale today. And now what I'd like to do is to show you all a video that Jordan Burgess, our Director of Communications, did highlighting Dale's background and Dale's connection to the School of Law.
I look fondly back at my Dayton law time. My name is Dale Riedel. I graduated UD Law back in 2004. The teaching was amazing. I mean, everybody had a different style. Made lifelong friends that we still keep in touch with and meet up as much as we can. I'm the chief of the Labor Law Field Support Center in the Los Angeles regional office, practicing Air Force labor law throughout California. Since graduating law school, I've done criminal prosecution, criminal defense. I was an appellate clerk on our appellate court. Then I went off and did labor law, environmental law, contract law for a base. Transitioned into international war crimes law. I was a prosecutor on the Guantanamo trials and the military commissions on the highest ranking Al-Qaeda member that's actually at Gitmo. ended up moving back to California and then took over the senior attorney position at one of the installations, Edwards Air Force Base. So in that role, I'm now turning into the mentor and the developer, where I'm taking brand new lawyers who entered the military with zero legal experience right out of law school, and teaching them about the Air Force and being an officer, but also being a lawyer. And then after that leadership role, I went to Afghanistan, so I got to practice operational and war law. What did Dayton provide me? It gave me that wide breadth of all these different areas, which really set me up for success in the Air Force. And it was just floored that I was told that I was being awarded the Distinguished Alumni Award. So, not a lot of things catch me off guard in my career. I anticipate a lot of things coming my way, and that just, I had no idea that was coming. So I really appreciate, obviously, being nominated and then being selected.
It is now my privilege and my honor to introduce Dale Riedel, class of 2004, with the 2020 Distinguished Alumni Award. Dale, congratulations.
Thank you, Dean Strauss. Greatly appreciated, of course. And thank you very much for the kind introduction and short summary of my career. I really do appreciate you taking the time as well with Matt to come out and visit with me in California. I know that you had a lot to do and we're very busy, but February seems like it should be yesterday, but it feels like it was a lifetime ago in a different world. To Adam Armstrong and the Alumni Association, thank you as well. I'm truly honored and I'm humbled to be recognized for my career and my service and my legal career. Again, when you called me earlier this year and caught me off guard and we talked, I thought this was going to be the greatest surprise of 2020, and boy, was I wrong. For the University of Dayton, and particularly the School of Law, specifically our dean, Lisa Kloppenberg back then, and admissions counselor, Janet Hine, a great thank you. In 2001, when I was applying to law school through an Air Force program, they took a chance and they invested in me. And it's clear to me that everything I have accomplished has its roots in University of Dayton School of Law. Receiving this award at this time in my career is kind of bittersweet, particularly because today is Veterans Day. This award serves as a capstone on my whole career. I'm going to retire next month from the Air Force. I have over 28 years of total service, with about 17 years of those in the legal career field, doing pretty much every type of law we can do in the military. Ironically, this was probably the last time I'll wear this uniform, because we're all teleworking and I'll retire before we're allowed to go back and do events. So it was nice to put this on today. I did have to shave my COVID beard and get a haircut, but I guess that's the price you pay. And then finally, thank you to my friends and my family, the ones I've met along the way. I did see a lot of you on the participant list on the left, and that's truly humbling to see how many people are taking time out of their day to watch this. So thank you. And as always with that, I'm going to end it there so that Tyler Starline cannot ask any further questions.
Thank you very much, Dale. And again, congratulations for the award. It's next my pleasure to introduce someone who truly needs no introduction to this group, and that is Judge Walter Rice. Judge Rice is going to introduce our next guest, and he has had a long association with the law school in almost every conceivable role. He's been a professor here. He's been on the Dean's Advisory Council. He's been a mentor to many of us, including myself, and just been an all-around inspirational presence at the School of Law. Just a day ago, he was a judge on the aptly named Walter Rice Moot Court finalist competition. And I would just say that Judge Rice really is somebody who's come to Dayton relatively late. I've really seen what people have been talking about. He truly is, I think, it could aptly be called the conscience of this community. And so it really is my pleasure to introduce Judge Rice, who's going to make the next, going to give the next award. Judge.
Dean, thank you so very much, and good afternoon to all. One of the greatest honors I have ever been given, an honor in which I take tremendous pride, is being on the list of non-alumni winners, awardees. And every year, that pride and the humble feeling I have as the result of that honor increases as I see more and more names added to that list. And certainly this year's honoree has done nothing at all to diminish that pride. This year's honoree, whom I am simply not yet authorized to reveal, is a 1984 graduate of Ball State University and a 1988 graduate of the law school at the University of Arkansas, Little Rock campus. Within a few years of coming to Dayton and becoming a practicing lawyer, she was very quickly recognized as one of our community's leading attorneys. She was a shareholder, a partner in the firm of Coolidge Wall before she was appointed to the bench. Her specialty was focused on complex litigation in a variety of complex litigation lawsuits in state court, in federal court, and in federal appellate and state appellate courts throughout the country. She was given a rank of AV by Martindale-Hubbell. For those of you that aren't specifically aware of what that means, it simply means that as an attorney, you're pretty darn good. She found time as a practicing attorney with a full caseload to run for and successfully be elected to the Dayton City Commission, where she served a 4-year term. She was appointed to the Montgomery County Court of Common Pleas in 2007 by then Governor Ted Strickland, and she was elected and re-elected in 2008, 2010, and 2016. For a 3-year period ending in 2019, in addition to carrying a full docket of civil and criminal matters as a common pleas judge, she presided over the Women's Therapeutic Court, especially a problem-solving criminal docket, providing a trauma-informed community supervision to female felony-level offenders who are coming through the criminal justice system. And there's no question that statistics show that among those who participated in that specialty court, the recidivism rate was reduced to a very, very great degree. Our Common Pleas Court has been recognized for the past 40 years as the best trial court in the state of Ohio and one of the very, very best in the country. And this year's honoree from the beginning of her judicial career has proven to be a superstar on a bench full of superstars, and one of the leading superstars at that. She's the paradigm of what a judge and a community servant should be. She's not content to simply do what judges in other communities do, which is come to court late, leave as early as possible, and many times can't be bothered to work a full week. Our bench doesn't include those people, and certainly today's honoree is not the stereotypical judge from other communities. She believes it's her obligation to be active in the community outside of the courthouse. She works tirelessly to improve the human condition, and she works with equal vigor to making certain that people in our community learn a little bit more about the justice system, and that she discharges her responsibility as a judge by promoting an understanding of that system and doing all she can to improve the image of our justice system insofar as the community is concerned and among her colleagues, her fellow judges. Her goal, and she works hard and she achieves that goal, is to make the motto of equal justice under the law a reality. She has served as, or is serving as, the immediate past president of the Dayton Bar Association. She's a former president of the Carl D. Kessler Inn of Court, where she and those she serves with teach younger lawyers not only technical legal skills, but also the professionalism and civility that distinguishes our profession from so many others. She has been involved in numerous other legal, social service, and philanthropic organizations. She's been an adjunct professor at Sinclair Community College, and of course, at our favorite law school, the University of Dayton. She's received numerous awards, including the Access to Justice Distinguished Service Award, the LGBTQ Ruby Award. She has received recognition by the Dayton Business Journal as one of the 50 most influential women. She's received the 2013 Dayton Business Journal Award for 40 persons under the age of 40, and she's a 2012 recipient of the YWCA's Women of Influence Award. I think the best way to sum up the respect and the admiration that every member of the legal community has for her than to tell this story briefly. She was not elected to her position initially. She was appointed to that position upon the retirement of a long-time serving and very popular judge. Not only was she such an obvious choice that she was appointed even before the retiring judge hung up his robe for the last time, and her appointment was greeted with stunned silence. Why is that? Because gubernatorial appointments to the bench are a very controversial, oftentimes very partisan matter. And everyone has his or her own candidate. And the reactions to judicial appointments range everywhere from good grief or good Lord, depending upon your religious affiliation, all the way to, well, I guess she'll be okay once she learns to read and receives her GED certificate. The stunned silence with which our honoree's appointment was greeted was that none of us in the legal community could believe that an essential partisan political appointment absolutely hit the mark. We were stunned that the political process elevated to the bench someone who had already contributed so much to the community, but whose potential was limitless. And quite frankly, as a judge, our honoree has, in everybody's opinion, achieved her potential and more. She has other talents as well. She's a gifted impersonator. for years, friends and even complete strangers would come to me and say, have you seen or heard Judge Wiseman's impersonation of you? And I would say, no, why? And that person would chortle and walk away laughing audibly to anybody within the sound of their voice. So for many years, I asked Judge Wiseman if she would perform for me, if she would give me one of her impersonations. And she would always chuckle and say, I don't do that anymore. Not denying she ever did, but saying that that was from a former chapter in her life. So what I was going to do today, Dean, was to simply say, Judge, before you are presented with this award, you're going to have to perform. You're simply going to have to show me exactly your impersonation that had attracted such interest. Well, I decided just this morning when considering my remarks that I'm no longer going to do that. I'm no longer going to do that because I simply do not feel with my fragile ego that I have any interest anymore in seeing what I'm really like. I've spoken longer than I should have, and I could have increased what I said tenfold. That's how much I admire our alumni or non-alumni award winner, Judge Mary Weissman. Dean?
Lawyers have a unique duty and a unique responsibility in an American democracy to improve the lives of everybody around us. Mary Wiseman. I'm a judge with the Montgomery County Court of Common Pleas. I attended the Bowen School of Law from the University of Arkansas in Little Rock, Arkansas. Once I became a lawyer, I knew I had found my niche in life. It has been everything that I dreamed of and more. It has given me just amazing experiences in life, and has given me this amazing career. Being a judge is the best gig you can get with a law license, hands down, and particularly being a judge in this county and in this division, because I work with amazing colleagues and incredible staff. I'm thrilled and honored and humbled to get the recognition from the law school, and particularly an honor that's named after one of my personal idols and role models and heroes, which is Judge Walter Rice. I look at the students of the University of Dayton School of Law and I think to myself, this profession has just got a great future because of the caliber of lawyers that the law school is producing. Judge Rice, thank you so very much for your kind words, and my heartfelt thanks to you and to the law school and the alumni of the law school for this incredible honor. I cannot describe the pride and humility that I feel getting this eponymous award from Judge Rice himself. I feel as though I've just gotten my lightsaber from Obi-Wan Kenobi himself and have been invited to join the Legion of the Jedi Knights. So I'm just over the moon happy with this. It's one of the greatest honors I've ever received. And I must say that in many ways I've used Judge Rice and his equally remarkable wife, Bonnie Rice, as role models to chart my own path. Our community and the Dayton Law School are so fortunate to have them in our sphere because they reflect the power and the humanity of kindness, of patience and integrity and service to others and persistence and justice. And they show us that the pathway to a better, more just, more fair world is through taking the high road. And so I'm just so proud to receive an award that is named after my personal hero, Judge Rice. And I want to say congratulations to Dale for his incredibly well-deserved honor today, and to give thanks today and every day to all of our veterans and service members for their dedication to country and our dear, dear freedoms. For the University of Dayton Law School, its deans, faculty, staff, students, and graduates, you represent the integrity and rule of law that our profession stands for, and you do so with innovation and diversity and equity and inclusion, and an emphasis on public service and pro bono service to the community. And so I'm so very proud to become an honorary alumni and join your beloved Flyer Nation today, joining past recipients of the, just incredible luminaries within the Dayton area and nationally who've also have received this honor. And I also want to encourage all of us to intentionally reach out and help the University of Dayton School of Law classes of 2019 and 2020 that have endured just unprecedented upheaval and disruption in their legal education and the start of their legal career. And I'm sure that if we make sure that we're reaching out to them and giving them the support and assistance that we can, that they will go on to have just tremendous careers and overcome the impediments that they've encountered over these past few months. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank my spouse, Michelle Riley, our children, grandchildren, family, and friends for their love and support that makes my life so incredibly whole and lush. So thank all of you very, very much. Again, I'm just so proud to have received this award. I can't thank you enough from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Well, let me thank both Dale Riedel and Judge Wiseman and congratulate them once again for their work and their honor today. Also want to thank the nominating committee and the board of directors for putting forth a slate and voting to award these two well-deserving recipients. And once again, would invite everyone to visit the webpage and provide nominations for future awards. So now I will introduce Jordan Burgess, who will moderate our short Q&A session with both of our recipients.
All right, thank you very much, Adam. Yeah, if we could have Lieutenant Colonel Riedel, Judge Wiseman back. And again, if you want to submit a question, just put it into the Q&A box there. So this one for you, Lieutenant Colonel Riedel. Somebody wants to know about any law school courses or professors that you remember fondly or otherwise from your time at UDSL. And they point out that I think it's Professor Elliott, Professor Seilstad, Professor Shaw, and I think Professor Watson are about the only ones that are still left from when you were in law school.
Right. So obviously I'd need to pull up the participant screen on the left to see I can thank them. But I mean, across the board, every professor was amazing. They were all unique. And if you hadn't had the opportunity to hear Professor Sultan talk about a camel getting his nose under a tent in your career, you're truly missing out. Each class was different. Each professor gave a little different spin. Professor Gerla and Professor Watson were pretty much polar opposites on how you felt when you walked through that door in the morning. But they were all amazing in their own way, and truly set us up in our class for success in the future. From a class standpoint, I think one of the most important classes I took was administrative law. Strangely enough, as a capstone class. In my career, we were going to do just about anything or any type of law, but admin law is something that permeates federal government and what I do: labor, environmental, contract, and so on. So that was a course I didn't really appreciate how great it was going to be for my future. And then legislation was one that really teaches you how to, that's the class that teaches you how to think like a lawyer. Property teaches you property law and so on, but legislation is the one that made you sit back and think, wow, when I'm reading this language and I'm reading this statute, there are different ways to read it, and poor drafting has an impact. And you really come to realize how you can argue against each other and both be right. And then till Judge Wiseman tells you which one is actually right.
That's right. Judge Wiseman, next question is for you. Well, first of all, sort of a question, comment for someone who shall remain nameless about whether Judge Rice told you about the free Maui condo that comes with the award. So that person will remain nameless. But we have another question. Judge Wiseman, talk about what motivated you to become a judge. Judge Rice talked about you being appointed to the position to begin with. What made you decide to put yourself forward for that?
In large part, to be frank with you, it was appearing in front of Judge Rice so many times to see someone who brought such dignity to the law, who made everyone feel as though they were being heard, and that he was synthesizing all of the divergent viewpoints about the law and the facts. And he was just so gracious as he goes through that process. And I thought, golly, if there was anything I would want to do, it would be, I want to be like him, right? I want to be like Judge Rice. And so when those opportunities arose, I was able to start pursuing them. And I'm one of those individuals that I've always viewed being a judge as really the pinnacle of legal accomplishment. And I love being a trial court judge because we're in the hustle and bustle of the trenches of trying to figure out disputes for real people. And the decisions have impact on real people's lives, and the gravity of that and the seriousness of that, and trying to do a great job at that. And then the opportunity to join just a fabulous court that has so many wonderful fellow judges and tremendous staff. So it was an easy thing for me to decide to try to pursue.
All right. Thank you, Judge Wiseman. Now, this next question for both of you, I'll start with you, Lieutenant Colonel Riedel. What's kind of a piece of advice that you'd give to, I mean, we've got, I think, some law students on here. What's a piece of advice that you'd give to them about navigating law school or to young lawyers navigating kind of early in their careers? I know you talked about how you mentored some young lawyers who were starting out in the Air Force.
Sure. Well, I think there's a big distinction between what you can do in law school, I think, to prepare yourself versus how you act and learn when you're into the actual profession. So obviously over the last 17 years or so, I'm focused on junior attorneys or brand new attorneys that come into our discipline, and we can practice just about anything. So I've had 2 lawyers come in my office. I don't know anything about either of them. And I'm like, one of you's going to criminal law and one of you's going to tort law. And I don't know what you want, but I'm just going to pick. And then in a year, you're going to switch. So from a new profession lawyer, my advice is just focus on the area you're put in, learn that area, and then try your best to excel in that area. Military practice is a bit different than private practice because we do pretty much everything, and you could in private practice end up in one discipline and spend an entire career focused on one sentence of one statute or one sentence in the Constitution and become an expert. So there's a little distinction there. In law school, what I found for me, I was a non-traditional student, which was one of the great draws of UD, where most of my close friends were in our upper 20s, which seemed old at the time, but is not. And then our study group was a really diverse group of people from mid-20s all the way up into mid-40s. And we all had the same work ethic, which I think was exceptional. You didn't necessarily pick people who were your friends, you picked people who were your work ethic. And we would get to school before class, we'd study in between classes. We would try to treat it like a job and get home by 5 or 6. Most of us had family. Some of us had kids, and you just treat it like a job because we had all been in the workforce and that it had a different attitude than kind of coming in and feeling a little bit like college still. So from a student standpoint, I think that's something that's critical, is just you got to realize that you're transitioning from an undergrad world and things may have been very easy to a scenario where work ethic is what's going to get you through law school, but without panicking. You had to have some humor. We weren't stressed about finding the perfect study group, although I think we ended up having that. Mm-hmm. You just can't put that kind of stress on you, and you'll see pretty quickly who you match with ethic wise, and stay with those people and just work hard to learn what they teach you, and take as many classes as you can, because what you learn in criminal procedure is a completely different mindset, I suppose, than what you might learn in environmental law or international law or healthcare law.
All right, and Judge Weissman, same question to you. I mean, what advice would you give to students, young lawyers? I mean, you've been an adjunct professor, and obviously you see lots of young lawyers before you in court. What would you say?
I would go with a view about staying true to the highest ethics and the highest ideals. Always take the high road. That was when I started the practice of law. The managing partner called me in and he said, "Mary, there's 3 rules that you have. One is do your timesheets every day. The second rule is always take the high road. And the third rule is never say anything about a lawyer or a judge that you wouldn't say to their face." And I think that was great advice. So when decades ago, when I was a brand new lawyer, and I think it's sound advice today, the importance of understanding that the practice of law is a crucible. You're under tremendous pressure from time to time, and it is vital that while you're in that crucible, that you're always saying, I'm going to follow the law. I'm going to take the high road. I'm going to be the most professional and courteous lawyer. I'm going to kill them with kindness. And in doing that, I am going to achieve and succeed and thrive. And just bearing that out time after time after time, I think brings great success to everybody that's in the practice of law.
All right. Just one more question, I think, for each of you, and then we'll wrap things up. I know we're a little bit over time. Lieutenant Colonel Riedel, I'd be remiss if we didn't ask about, what's next for you, after retirement. Somebody even asked if you could pick one of the locations where you've worked as a permanent retirement home, where would it be? And then, do you have any plans yet of kind of what's next?
Well, I hear land is really cheap in Afghanistan right now. It's on my list. I mean, that's a fundamental question that military members are asked, is where would you end up? And we've lived in Colorado, Texas, South Carolina, Ohio, and Dayton, Columbus, sort of, back to DC, California, DC, California. We've loved every single place we've been in their own way. They each offered something great. The communities are different. And everywhere we've moved, we said we could settle down here. And then we moved somewhere else. We're like, wow, we like this too. So with that said, it really came down to just opportunity and the next phase of our career. We're staying here in California. Dave Brandon had just asked a question on the chat room, and I was responding to it when you asked me that. So I was at Edwards Air Force Base for 5 years, and then I moved down to LA Air Force Base, but I didn't have to physically move my house. And we live on a couple acres up in the mountains north of LA. So it's a beautiful area. We get snow, and then we can drive down to the beach if we want. So we're going to stay here. My wife is a veterinarian and works at a very successful practice down in the LA basin. We're planning to buy that practice and then run the vet clinic. And then I've just accepted a job at Edwards Air Force Base as a civilian attorney for the federal government, primarily because I don't have to take the bar exam again. So I can an Ohio license and practice federal law and not have to study California water rights if there are any. So I'll do labor and environmental law for the base. And then because I was the senior attorney at the base, one of the major pieces I'll be in charge of, in a sense, is mentoring the junior captains like I used to, which is, quite honestly, looking back on my career, the most important contribution I've made to the Air Force was not any legal case, court-martial, defense. It was the development of the junior officers, because that's a force multiplier. The Air Force is better, I hope, because of the 10, 15 officers who are now senior officers who I've helped develop. And so I get to continue that, which is something I'm very excited about.
You know, if you have to take that bar exam, most improved bar pass rate in the country at UDSL. So I'm sure we have resources for alumni to help study for bar exams as well. So just keep that in mind. Judge Weissman, one more thing for you. Obviously, I'm not going to ask you to do your Judge Rice impression, but maybe you could give us some insight as to either how that came about, or how do you capture, you know, the judge's essence, you know, for even an impression?
Jordan, I respectfully invoke my privilege under the Fifth Amendment to the United States Constitution, and will not give dignity to the hearsay rumor that in the practice of law I would on occasion potentially and allegedly attempt to imitate Judge Rice.
He's second to none, so you know there's no way you could even compare to imitate. So, well, thank you both so much. Congratulations, Lieutenant Colonel Riedel. Congratulations, Judge Weissman. Very, very worthy award winners today. Thank you to everybody who tuned in this afternoon for this. Again, sorry that circumstances we couldn't have this in person, but hopefully it helped to be able to have some people from all across the country tune in for this. And you can watch both of the videos are online on the website and have been shared on social media on Facebook and LinkedIn if anybody wants to go back and check those out. So again, thanks to both of you. And of course, we're keeping the veterans on Veterans Day today in our thoughts and prayers. And I think that's it for us. So thanks, everyone. And until next time, so long, everybody.
Thank you.